Shinobu and Giyu quickly took Yuki into an empty room, closing and locking the door behind them. Yuki had dropped to her knees, gripping her head as she growled and fought against the pain. Shinobu kneeled in front of Yuki, placing a hand on one of her shoulders. "Yuki, tell me what's going on. What's wrong?"
Don't resist against my powers, Yuki. Attack them now.
"No, I won't listen to you," Yuki screamed, trying to hold her powers back from activating.
You can't resist me. Surrender to my will and kill those two Hashira.
"Yuki!" Shinobu shouted. "Listen to me!" She tightened the grip on her shoulder, trying to keep her grounded. "Who's talking to you?" Giyu asked, standing behind Yuki with his hand on his sword. I don't know," she cried, tears of blood flowing from her eyes, trying to resist the voice in her head.
You know exactly who I am. You've seen my face, even if you don't remember it. You've read all about me in the books in your study. The taste of your family's blood was amazing.
"You," she muttered, anger and a growl laced in her voice. "You're the one who murdered my family." "It's Kibutsuji," Giyu shouted, quickly kneeling beside her, placing his hand on her shoulder as well. "Don't listen to him. He doesn't have any power over you."
That's where he's wrong, my child. You are nothing but a puppet for me to use. I control your free will. I control your actions. I control your mind.
Yuki had been taking sharp breaths, fighting the pain in her head and the voice in it as well. The rage was only building up inside of her, looking up at Shinobu and Giyu, but she couldn't see their faces. All she saw were red silhouettes. Giyu and Shinobu saw that Yuki's eyes had started flickering, but not the usual icy blue, but a blood red. They knew that Kibutsuji was beginning to take over, which only made the two of them fear for Yuki. "Yuki, please fight against him!" Shinobu yelled, tightening her grip.
Attack and kill them, my puppet.
Yuki let out a blood-curdling scream, her body going limp and rigid. Her body remained dormant for a moment, making Shinobu and Giyu wonder what happened. The both of them carefully watched as Yuki slowly began to sit up. Her eyes were closed, but Giyu had a sickening feeling watching the way she moved. He knew something was wrong. Yuki's hand grabbed both Giyu and Shinobu by the wrists. The grip was incredibly strong, demonic even. Neither of them were able to break away from Yuki. She opened her eyes, but the only thing Giyu and Shinobu saw were that they had turned a pinkish red. Her eyes were no longer her own. They were Kibutsuji's.
My will is absolute.
Yuki began digging her nails into Giyu and Shinobu's wrist, drawing blood from the two of them. Giyu pulled out of her grip, quickly grabbing her and pinning her to the ground. "Yuki, snap out of it! He doesn't control you."
I can't control myself,
she shouted, her voice mixing with Kibutsuji's, fighting against him the best she could. "Shinobu, get her medicine. She isn't going to break out of this without our help." "On it! I have to get it from Kanao. I'll be back as soon as I can," she yelled, quickly running from the room.
Your pathetic medicine won't help her. She's completely under my control and at my mercy. She's my puppet,
Kibutsuji yelled, his voice coming from Yuki's throat. "No, she's not. A person has their own free will, and no one, not even you, can change that," Giyu screamed. "Even if you have control over her right now, you can't keep it forever. I won't let you."
I won't listen to you. I won't harm my friends,
Yuki gasped, her own voice trying to make itself known. Yuki, you made a promise. Remember that promise.
Promise.
Yuki flashed back to the moment she discovered her powers, remembering the day Giyu and Shinobu offered to train her. I promise to use these newfound powers to benefit humans. I'll never use my powers to harm innocent people. I made a promise to never use my powers against another human. I promise to use my powers for good. I want to eradicate demonkind to avenge my family. I want to eradicate you, Muzan Kibutsuji! She screamed, a large burst of wind and ice pushing back Giyu. She looked up, her eyes glowing an icy blue, before screaming. You do not control me! You never will, you bastard! She let out a deafening scream, releasing a burst of demonic energy from her. Shinobu rushed back into the room, seeing that it was covered in a thin layer of ice. Yuki stood there with her eyes closed, letting out a deep exhale that clouded from the chill from her body. Her body began to fall to the floor, but Shinobu quickly caught her, gently laying her on the ground. Shinobu felt Yuki's skin when she caught her, and it concerned her a great deal. She's ice cold, she muttered, feeling for a pulse. At least she has a pulse, but it's weak. At least she has a pulse at all. I know that was very draining on her. Let's give her the medicine now. It should hopefully help her regain consciousness sooner. Shinobu nodded, injecting the purple liquid into Yuki's vein. A few minutes passed as the two waited anxiously for Yuki to regain consciousness. She slowly began to stir, her eyes fluttering open to be met with Shinobu and Giyu's worried gazes. Thank you, she muttered. That was excruciating. It definitely looked painful. But it's over now, thankfully, Giyu said, helping Yuki to her feet. The two helped Yuki off of the ground, leading her to the edge of the bed to sit. She sat down, but the only thing she felt was an overwhelming sense of anxiety. She looked up at Giyu and Shinobu before her gaze fell to her hands. What am I gonna do? Everyone saw what began to happen. They're all going to try killing me if I tell them what happened. But I can't hide it either. I'll tell you this, Yuki, Giyu said, sitting down next to her, grabbing her hand to comfort her. I made a promise many years ago to Cory, saying that I would protect you no matter what. I don't intend to break that promise. If they want to try anything, they'll have to go through me first. They'll have to go through me as well, Shinobu stated with a smile. We both have worked hard to get you to this level. We aren't going to let them harm you. Thank you. That means a lot, Yuki said with a soft smile. The two nodded, smiling and lightly hugging her in return. They sat there in silence for a few minutes, comforting each other. Eventually, Shinobu stood up, turning around to offer her hand to Yuki. Do you think you're ready to head back outside? She sat there for a moment before taking the hand that was outstretched for her. I think so. Let us help you then. You're still quite shaky, Giyu said, wrapping his arm around Yuki's waist. Yuki leaned into the both of them, keeping herself upright. She was still pretty weak, so having the extra support was nice. They guided her back to the courtyard, where all of the Hashira were looking at her with concern. Her heart was racing from the adrenaline in her veins, but she put on a serious face. Rengoku ran up to her, his face filled with worry and concern. Yuki, are you doing all right? We've all been extremely worried about you. She stopped herself, looking to everyone around her. Rengoku, Igoro, Sanemi, Mitsuri, Guillaume, Muichiro, Shinobu, Giyu, Tanjiro, Ubiyashiki. She took a deep breath to calm herself before looking up at everyone with a serious expression. There is a secret I've been hiding from you all. It's time I told you the truth about what I really am.